I'm Jeremy. Today's day 440 of reading, trading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Let's get started. We're currently on page 489. Let's go, lock in. Said he'd give me another bite if I didn't shut up, said Mr. Weasley sadly. And that woman over there, he indicated the only other occupied bed, which was right beside the door, won't tell the healers what bit her, which makes us all think that it must have been something she was handling illegally. Whatever it was took a real chunk out of her leg. Very nasty smell when they take off the dressings. So are you going to tell us what happened, Dad? Said Fred, pulling his chair closer to the bed. Well, you already know, don't you? Said Mr. Weasley, with a significant smile at Harry. It's very simple. I had a very long day, dozed off, got sneaked up on, and bitten. Is it in the profit you being attacked? Said Fred, indicating the newspaper Mr. Weasley had cast aside. No, of course not, said Mr. Weasley, with a slightly bitter smile. The ministry wouldn't want everyone to know what dirty great serpent got. Arthur, said Mrs. Weasley warningly. Got me, Mr. Weasley said hastily, though Harry was quite sure that was not what he had meant to say. So, where were you when it happened, Dad? Said George. That's my business, said Mr. Weasley, though with a small smile. He snatched at the Daily Prophet, shook it open again, and said, I was just reading about Willie Wilderson's arrest when you arrived. You know, Willie turned out to be behind those regurgitating toilets last summer. One of his jinxes backfired. The toilet exploded, and they had found him lying unconscious in the wreckage, covered from head to foot in... When you say you were on duty, Fred interrupted in a low voice, what were you doing? You heard your father, whispered Mrs. Weasley. We are not discussing this here. Go on about Willie Wilderson's, Arthur. Well, don't ask me how, but he actually got off on the toilet charge, said Mr. Weasley grimly. I can only suppose gold changed hands. You were guarding it, weren't you? Said George quietly. The weapon? The thing you know who's after? George, be quiet, snapped Mrs. Weasley. Anyway, said Mr. Weasley in a raised voice, this time Willie's been caught selling biting doorknobs to muggles, and I don't think he'll be able to worm his way out of it because according to this article, 2 muggles have lost fingers and are now in St. Mungo's for emergency bone regrowth and memory modification. Just think of it, muggles in St. Mungo's. I wonder which ward they're in. And he looked eagerly around as though hoping to see a signpost. Didn't you say you know who got a snake, Harry? Said Fred, looking at his father for a reaction. A massive one? You saw it the night he returned, didn't you? That's enough, said Mrs. Weasley crossly. Mad Eye and Tonks are outside, Arthur. They want to come in and see you. And you lot can wait outside, she added to her children and Harry. You can come and say goodbye afterward. Go on. They trooped back into the crater. Mad Eye and Tonks went in and closed the door of the ward behind them. Fred raised his eyebrows. Fine, he said coolly, rummaging in his pocket. Be like that. Don't tell us anything. Looking for these, said George, holding out what looked like a tangle of fresh-colored string. You read my mind, said Fred, grinning. Let's see if St. Mungo's put imperturbable charms on its ward doors, shall we? He and George disentangled the strings and separated 5 extendable years from each other. Fred and George handed them around. Harry hesitated to take one. Go on, Harry, take it. You saved Dad's life. If anyone's got the right to eavesdrop on him, it's you. Grinning in spite of himself, Harry took the end of the string and inserted it into his ear as the twins had done. Okay, go, Fred whispered. The flesh-colored strings wriggled like long, skinny worms, then snaked under the door. For a few seconds, Harry could hear nothing. Then he heard Tonks whispering as clearly as though she were standing right beside him. They searched the whole area, but they couldn't find the snake anywhere. It just seems to have vanished after it attacked you, Arthur. But you know who can't have expected a snake to get in, can he? I reckon he sent it as a lookout, growled Moody, 'cause he's not had any luck so far, has he? No, I reckon he's trying to get a clearer picture of what he's facing. And if Arthur hadn't been there, the beast would have had much more time to look around. So Potter says he saw it all happen? Yes, said Mrs. Weasley. She sounded rather uneasy. You know, Dumbledore seems almost to have been waiting for Harry to see something like this. Yeah, well, said Moody, there's something funny about the Potter kid. We all know that. Dumbledore seemed worried when about Harry when I spoke to him this morning," whispered Mrs. Weasley. "Of course he's worried," growled Moody. "The boy's seeing things from inside you-know-who's snake. Obviously, Potter doesn't realize what that means, but if you-know-who's possessing him..." Harry pulled the extendable ear out of his own, his heart hammering very fast and heat rushing up to his face. He looked around at the others. They were all staring at him, the strings still trailing from their ears, looking suddenly fearful. Chapter 23. Christmas on the Ward. Closed Ward. Was this why Dumbledore would no longer meet Harry's eyes? Did he expect to see Voldemort staring out of them, afraid perhaps that their vivid green eyes might suddenly turn to scarlet, with cat-like slits for pupils? Harry remembered how the snake-like face of Voldemort had once forced itself out of the back of Professor Quirrell's head, and he ran his hand over the back of his own, wondering what it would feel like if Dumbledore burst out of his skull. He felt dirty, contaminated, as though he were carrying some deadly germ, unworthy to sit on the underground train back from the hospital with innocent, clean people whose minds and bodies were free of the taint of Voldemort. He had not merely seen the snake, he had been the snake. He knew it now. And then a truly terrible thought occurred to him, a memory bobbing to the surface of his mind. One made his insides writhe and squirm like serpents. What's he after apart from followers? Stuff he can only get by stealth, like a weapon, something he didn't have last time. "I'm the weapon," Harry thought, and it was as though poison were pumping through his veins, chilling him, bringing him out in a sweat, as he swayed with the train through the dark tunnel. "I'm the one Voldemort's trying to use. That's why they've got guards around me everywhere I go. It's not for my protection, it's for other people's. Only it's not working. They can't have someone on me all the time at Hogwarts. I did attack Mr. Weasley last night. It was me. Voldemort made me do it, and he could be inside me, listening to my thoughts right now." "Are you all right, Harry, dear?" whispered Mrs. Weasley, leaning across Ginny to speak to him as the train rattled along through its dark tunnel. "You don't look very well. Are you feeling sick?" They were all watching him. He shook his head violently and stared up at an advertisement for home insurance. "Harry, dear, are you sure you're all right?" said Mrs. Weasley, in a worried voice, as they walked around the unkempt patch of grass in the middle of Grimmauld Place. "You look ever so pale. Are you sure you slept this morning? You go upstairs to bed right now, and you can have a couple of hours sleep before dinner, all right?" Harry nodded. Here was a ready-made excuse not to talk to any of the others, which was precisely what he wanted. So when she opened the front door, he proceeded straight past the troll's leg umbrella stand and up the stairs and hurried into his and Ron's bedroom. Here, he began to pace up and down, past the two beds and Phineas Nigelus's empty portrait, his brain teeming and seething with questions and ever more dreadful ideas. How had he become a snake? Perhaps he was an animagus. No, he couldn't be. He would know. Perhaps Voldemort was an animagus. Yes, thought Harry, that would fit. He would turn into a snake, of course, and when he's possessing me, then we both transform. That still doesn't explain how come I got to London and back to my bed in the space of about 5 minutes, though. But then, Voldemort's about the most powerful wizard in the world. Apart from, thank you everyone, that's all for today. Bye, see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to read page 494. Bookmark. Peace out.